We have two questions that are kind of related, so I'm going to combine them. They're from Christy and from Melissa. And what they want to know essentially is, how do they know which guidelines to follow? Because the guidelines that are in use in practice, are they the guidelines that are going to be asked about on the exam questions?
Okay, I would love to answer that one if Jennifer and Betty will give me a shot.
That's fine.
So listen, that is like the million-dollar question, but two pieces of advice for you. One of them is to realize that your exam is never going to have the latest, greatest information. And the reason it will never have that is because the questions that are going to be on your exam have to have statistical reliability and validity. And it takes a while before they can do that. So all exams always have practice questions. You're not going to know which ones those are. They don't count towards your score, but they're seeing how students perform on them. And that's how they build statistical reliability and validity. And because it takes so long, if a guideline has come out in the last year or year and a half, it's never going to be on your exam. Let me give you a good example. We had that question about pneumonia. The brand new guidelines, the latest pneumonia guidelines that came out in December of 2019. If you take an exam in 2020, those brand new guidelines are not going to be on your exam. They're too new. They haven't been able to develop those questions yet. So, that's another good reason to come to a review course, because we walk you through that thought process. Another way that you can find out what guidelines are going to be on there is, I want you to stay away from the specialty bodies guidelines, because remember, you're taking a primary care exam, and they tend to use those guidelines that are used all the time in primary care. For example, for diabetes, it's always the American Diabetes Association. For hypertension, we actually have 3 of them out right now. We have JNC8, we have the American College of Cardiology, American Heart Association, and if you're a nerd like me, 3 weeks ago, the American Society of Hypertension released new guidelines. And so when guidelines vary a little bit, as they do in the hypertension guidelines, when they vary like that, they're never going to ask you something specific to one guideline. It's usually a safety-related question, like don't combine an ACE inhibitor and an ARB, So the last point I'll make is, with regard to what guidelines are on the exam, if you will go to your exam blueprint, remember I told you to go to that? While you're there, in very close proximity, is going to be a reference list. It's a list of references that were used to prepare the exam. And while you might think I just told you about a treasure chest, I didn't, because there's so much on there that you couldn't possibly learn it or read it all. But at least we'll give you a flavor for how they develop those questions. But remember, you are taking a primary care exam, all right? So hopefully that helps. Jennifer, Betty, anything else to add?
Yes, primary care and entry level.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Entry level. So, the specifics or anything really, really detailed is not expected of you.